Hi, I'm Dottie Grover, the host for Transparency in Government. And this is a program that was started so that the issues that you want to know more about, or that maybe you're not getting clear information in your mind, we will talk about them here. So I have had people call in and give me some questions that we will be asking the town manager. He's our first guest on the show, and he's back here with us again this month. And there's always something going on in Londonderry, and there's always someone who doesn't understand the whole thing. And we always hope that it's not the town manager. We're hoping he knows what's going on. And I'm sure he does. And Kevin, I'm happy to have you with us again.
Yeah, it's nice to be back, Dottie. Thank
and
you.
There's been some issues in the newspapers lately that raise questions more than answers. And how do you think we should start today?
Sure.
What's your favorite
Why don't we start with the issue that I've been getting the most calls about recently?
Sounds good to me.
And hopefully by the time this show airs, maybe the problem will have been resolved. But it deals with the odor coming off of, coming from the wastewater treatment facility around Exit 4.
Which is located in?
Derry.
Yes.
Yes, it's Derry's wastewater treatment facility. They own it. There's part of the lagoons are in Londonderry, but the majority of the plant is in Derry, and it's owned by the town of Derry. So we started receiving calls about this sometime the mid last week. So that would have been the second to last week of May. That there was an odor permeating around the Exit 4 area, anywhere from about Cracker Barrel up to where I guess the clock tower offices are. But that it was also, with the way the wind was blowing, it was wafting into neighborhoods and people were smelling it a few miles away. And we knew where the odor was coming from because every now and then there will be an odor that comes from the wastewater treatment plant. But the reports that we were getting were saying it's been stronger than usual, and that it seems to be staying around longer than normal. So
even with the wind.
Even with the wind.
Wow.
Yeah. So our folks at DPW reached out to the officials in Derry just to see what was going on, and it's. The weather has affected it a little bit this year, more than normal. I'm not going to claim to be an expert in how wastewater is treated, but it has something to do with getting oxygen into the water to bring down the smell. And because we've had a really kind of funny spring where we've had wide temperature fluctuations, a lot of rain, it's just made the smell worse than normal. But hopefully, as the temperatures start to rise, it should go away pretty soon. So we're telling folks just to stand by that. It should go away soon. Obviously, if it doesn't, the town of Derry is going to have to look at what perhaps is maybe causing it to stay around a little bit longer than normal. But it is something obviously that we're well aware of. At this point, we don't believe there's any reason to think it's anything other than it just going through its natural course of treatment, but that it's, this year it's been affected differently than it has been in previous years.
I do recall that we had this issue like years and years ago, but I don't remember anything in recent years. It's interesting that the weather that we've had has caused it to be more odoriferous. I would have expected that the warmer the weather,
it would have.
Right. But Derry's prepared to look into this if it doesn't.
Yeah, I would assume that they are, but everybody right now is on the same page that this is, again, it's nothing unusual per se, other than the fact that the odor is a little bit stronger this year and it's staying around a little bit longer. But soon enough, it should be hopefully back to its normal state.
We will hope.
Yes, we certainly will. So that's the update on the odor off of Exit 4.
Okay.
But we've had some very exciting news in the last couple of weeks. And the last time I was in here, Dottie, I talked a lot about economic development.
Absolutely.
And how we're seeing it to start percolating in town more, and the fact that there are more things on the horizon. And one of those things was publicly publicly announced a couple of weeks ago. In fact, I brought a couple of the headlines with me here. This one was from the Union Leader on May 22nd, UPS jobs jetting to Londonderry, talking about the new 600,000 square foot facility that Pratt Whitney, which is a manufacturer of jet airline parts, they're going to be teaming up with UPS to build a massive facility up at Pettingill Road in Londonderry.
Fantastic.
Which is,
do we know what the employment might be for a facility like that?
There right now, anywhere from 300 to 500 jobs.
Wonderful.
So yeah, and those are all new jobs. And really what this facility, it's going to be a distribution center, so UPS is acting as a third-party logistics partner for Pratt Whitney, but it will be a distribution center of their jet engine parts in between their facilities that are in Connecticut and Maine. So this area really made perfect sense to them because it's right in the middle
Central,
of their two facilities. The airport is a great location for them to be in. And frankly, Londonderry is a great town for us to have them. So this comes on the heels of knowing that FedEx has already started building their 300,000 square foot facility up at the other end of Pettingill Road where it intersects with Industrial Drive. And then you also have Milton Caterpillar, which has been before the planning board, and they're currently in their design review stage right now with the planning staff, building a facility that's going to be about 100,000 square feet. So just in the last 6 months, we're now seeing over 1 million square footage of new construction going up at Pettingill Road.
That's fantastic.
It's awesome. It's great, and it's something that as a town we had talked about for so long, of getting, Pettingill Road going and now we're seeing it happening, and we're seeing all of the private development that's going on in there. And the great news is there's still a lot more land up there to be developed. So, we had this announcement. There was another great article in the Union Leader this week that talked about how Londonderry is the 9th largest community in New Hampshire, is really seeing the most economic growth of any municipality in the state right now. And
we are rather conveniently situated.
We are, and I talked about that last time with the 2 exits off of 93. We now have access to Route 3 and the Airport Access Road. It's a great location, and we have land that can be developed as well. And then the Derry News, this week, their headline was Londonderry on the brink of explosive growth. This is, it's an exciting time. And the good news, Dottie, and I can't emphasize this enough, is that unlike when we saw a lot of growth in the mid to late 80s, early 90s, we're prepared this time.
Okay.
The town is very prepared. It's done its homework between its zoning that it has in place, the master planning that's taken place over the last 20 years, where it's designated its thoroughfares and corridors for commercial and industrial development to take place along 102, 28, the airport. But we also have the restrictions on zoning in our residential areas and the easements on our farms so that we keep that rural character. And it really is, it's been very deliberate, but it's good so that people that are here know that they're not going to drive down the street 5 years from now along Mammoth Road and see all this development along the farms and and lose that rural character that we love here in Londonderry. We can have growth along those thoroughfares, but we're going to keep our charm and character intact in the center of town.
And I don't think anybody would be unhappy if it also had a positive effect on our tax rate.
Oh, I don't think anyone will be unhappy about that. And this will. I mean, this kind of growth, this kind of economic growth will only impact the tax rate positively in that it will, help hopefully bring down, the burden on the residential taxpayers, because that's obviously very important too. And it's good to have a mix of both commercial real estate taxes being paid and residential. You don't ever want to put the burden too heavily on one or the other. Now, right now, I was actually looking at the ratio not that long ago between residential and commercial, and it's about 67% residential, 33% commercial. If you looked at it 20 years ago, the gap would have been even wider than that. So I'd like to see it continue to get closer to almost 50-50, so that, again, the residents of the town aren't burdened with having to pay the whole share of the taxes, or even 2/3 of it. So I think we're on the right track here. And as I said, this is it's an exciting time because you still have the Woodmont Commons development, which is approved. You have the airport area, which is taken off. I think you're going to see continued growth in the Exit 5 area, in some of the parcels that are still not developed around that area yet. As we know, the Red Arrow Diner is going to be moving in there soon.
I did not know that.
The Red Arrow announced a couple of months ago. We've
We'll
known
be
for a
famous
while.
all over the world.
We will be. Yeah, I mean, that's the place where all the politicians like to
Yep.
go to when they run for president up here.
Yeah.
But there's off Exit 5, there's a gas station, a truck stop there that's
Yep.
being completely renovated, and they're going to have retail, convenience store. But the Red Arrow is slated to go in there as well.
Wow.
Right off of Exit 5. Yeah, and then actually yesterday it was announced that a distillery from New Orleans is moving their operations up to Londonderry, or I should say, building a new operation in Londonderry. They're taking over a distillery that's currently there, but they're going to be adding new jobs. And along with that, bringing some spirits as well, that they'll be manufacturing right here in town. So it's an exciting time.
That is exciting, and I know that economic development has been something that you've been heavily involved in for a long time, like to see what was going on. So it sounds like you've walked into this, and the pieces are falling into place, and I'm sure that it has a lot to do with your previous experiences.
Well, there was a great foundation that was in place when I came in. It's almost like the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle were there. It was just a matter of putting them in the right place and making the whole picture. So it's timing and being in the right place at the right time. But certainly it's great to see it all coming together. Very nice. Now, it actually serves as I think a nice transition into another subject that's been in the papers a lot lately, and something that's on people's mind, and that is the future planning of the town center, the town common,
yes.
and the master plan in general. There were concerns among some who, after the master plan was completed, if you look at the renderings of the different areas of town, but most notably the town center, the conceptual of the folks who drew up the master plan, the outside group that we had hired, what they heard from the folks who were involved with that master plan was, we wanted a more usable town common area. We wanted a place that people could gather, not just on Old Home Day or when there's a specific event there, but a place where people could go to have picnics in there, and just make it more of a usable park-like area. And so the rendering that came out of that, if you look at it in the master plan, and by the way, if anyone wants to see the master plan, they can go online, click on either the planning page or the economic development page, and they can pull up the whole master plan, download it.
And it's not just all big words. You
No,
can actually
it's-
see the visual
yeah.
of what was intended.
Yeah. But the rendering of the artist, that the artist came up with, is almost more, looks like a more traditional New England town common, where you have some intersecting roads going through it all. Think of the Milford Oval, if you will, where there's the green space in the middle, the businesses around it. That was the artist's rendering, but that's one person's vision.
Idea, yeah.
And what people have to understand about the master plan is that while it is a legal document, it's something that we need to do as a town to receive certain state and federal funds for our capital improvement plan as well. It's not something that mandates that the town has to go by that plan. So there can be deviations from it. There can, you don't have to do exactly what it proposes that you do. So at the same time, as I said before, there are people who would like to see the common become a more usable space, whether that means more trails through the town forest, whether that means putting some parking on that side of the road so that people don't have to cross the street to get over there. these are all issues being discussed right now, and there's a master plan implementation committee that's more of a steering committee.
Okay.
It's more of a advisory committee to the planning board that's talking about these issues right now. And I would say if anyone's interested in taking part in this process and going to the meetings, call Town Hall. We'll let you know when the meetings are. And certainly if anyone has ideas about it, we want to hear those ideas. But what it's important to note is that no one's going to see any radical changes to the town common or the town center overnight.
Okay.
It's important that we plan for the future so that we know what we want there for the future. But it's such a unique, it's unique to Londonderry, and in some ways it's almost a sacrosanct area there that is important to so many people that I think it'll be a very slow, thoughtful, deliberate process for any changes that
Well, I
take.
know over the years there's been an incredible amount of discussion over what color
Yeah.
the little pavilion
Oh,
piece
sure.
could be.
Yeah.
Because I think it was stated in the grant that the person who granted that to the town,
Yep.
this is the color he wanted. I think it's really great that there's more going on to involve people to find out what can and cannot happen at the common area, getting more input from the community on that. And I like that you are trying to explain to people the difference between the master plan being necessary
Yeah.
for those
Right.
grants versus it being a legal document that you are bound to.
Right.
I know that, again, over the years, I think I've been here longer than you.
Just
But
a
over
little.
the years, what's happened is that very often when it's time to do the new master plan,
Yeah.
you hear a lot of discussion amongst the community about, well, what happened to the old one?
Right.
How come that
Sure.
didn't happen? I thought we were going to have this or we were going to have that.
Right.
So I think letting people know that this is the guide
Right.
that you're going by.
Yeah.
And this might be, if everything was perfect, this is what it would look like. But in the meantime, we can make some changes if we need to.
Right, exactly. So it's important to know that it can be flexible.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, as you stated, it's a guide, but it's not something that absolutely has to be done. But we want to hear from the citizens. What do they want for their community? Again, in this
Yeah.
particular area, and there's some who say, don't do anything to it, leave it the way it is.
Yeah.
Others who say, no, I would like to have picnics in there and be able to park on that side of the road so that
Right.
I don't have to cross two major roads if they've got kids in tow.
Right.
And so it's important to hear these things.
Well, I hope that on an ongoing basis, we'll hear about what's happening with the master plan, how that committee is doing, and maybe we'll have somebody from that committee come on one of these
Yeah,
days to
I
talk
think
a
it's
little bit
great
more
idea.
about their
Yeah, I
activities.
think that'd be a great idea. By the way, and this is kind of breaking news. I'm breaking on your show
Breaking
here,
news.
Dottie.
I'm
Yes,
happy.
I'm planning on announcing it at the town council meeting on Monday
Okay.
as well. But our new town clerk, our recently elected town clerk, Sherry Farrell, is now going to be performing civil marriage ceremonies
Oh, cool.
for anyone that wants to take part in that. It's not something we've offered as a service before in town, but she has her JP license and is a notary. So anyone that wants to be married by her, they'll be able to do that now.
That's great.
And,
Do we have a little gazebo somewhere we could get the, the
Well, I
nice
was going to say,
photo?
there's certainly places in the town
Oh, there
where
are,
folks
yeah.
are welcome to use for that,
Yeah.
whether it be the town common. There's been interest from some folks want to get married there, or down by the Morrison House
Yes,
in the
yeah.
historic district
Yeah.
there. It's a very nice setting. So I think there's some good options for folks, and
Terrific.
they'll now
That's
have that
great.
option in town. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So what else did we want to cover here today? I have to put my glasses on to see. So don't
That's
shine the
okay.
camera on me. I'll have glare. Okay, so we've covered that and that. The musquash.
Yes.
That was something that's been big in the news again.
Yes.
The musquash, people are up in arms, no pun intended, over people being
right.
up in arms.
And, so the way it is right now is that there's no town restrictions on shooting in any of the conservation areas. Not just the musquash, but our other conservation areas as well. And actually, I'm just going to digress for a moment here,
Sure.
because I should mention too that when we talk about the development and the economic development, one of the things that often gets left out in that conversation, what's very important to note, is that currently we have about 20% of our land designated already for conservation. That's very important. Because that's open space that's never going to be developed. Again, part of the planning the town did to say, yeah, we want to see development all along the outskirt, the perimeter of town, but we want to keep these areas undevelopable.
Yeah.
So we have about 20% that's already, and when you add in land that really can't be developed by default conservation, it's almost 40%, it almost doubles, because we have a lot of wetlands
Right,
in town.
and if I understand, in addition to just conserving land, we're also looking at aquifers?
We are.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. So it's I bring that up as a caveat on the development as well. But in terms of the shooting, so as I mentioned, there are no prohibitions right now. And what some folks in town would like to see is a prohibition on target shooting, but not hunting in these particular areas, because the concern has been that you have some target shooters going out there that are not shooting or are shooting in areas where there could be trails and people walking by. The town council, if it wants to, can pass an ordinance saying no target shooting. The town of Bow has done something similar, Merrimack as well. What happens then, though, is it then becomes an enforcement issue. Now, currently, our police are not patrolling these areas. If a call comes into the police that says, we've got, then they'll act appropriately, they'll respond. But they're not patrolling these areas right now. If we pass an ordinance that says, we're going to prohibit this kind of shooting in the conservation areas, then it's going to require our police to patrol these areas. Now
Makes no sense otherwise.
Yeah, correct. If you're not going to enforce it, why pass it?
Right.
Now you're talking about 1,000+ acres of land where the police now have to patrol, which means they're going to have to use resources from somewhere in order to be able to do that. So these are
They're
all...
going to need duck boats.
Duck boats, yeah.
Because some of it's dry, some of it's wet.
I can see that now. The taxpayer's going, great. Where do we get the duck boat from?
Might be a way to raise funds.
Well, they'll look nice in the old Home Day parade, that's
They
for
would,
sure,
yes.
right? So, these are all things that the council is going to have to consider when deciding what to do. And it could be they decide ultimately not to do anything. Or they may decide to pass an ordinance, but again, it's you've got to have a way to be able to enforce it.
It sounds to me, I know the noise is a factor,
Yep.
but I would think that safety is probably also an issue with people. What kind of liability does the town have if it doesn't pass any ordinance against shooting and somebody gets shot, or vice versa?
And I've asked this question of our town attorney, and currently. It's if someone were shooting in the conservation area and were to hit somebody that is walking on a trail, or they don't have to, even if they just shoot someone in there, the liability is on the shooter. It's not on the town.
Not on the town at all.
Yeah. So that's obviously something that the shooter, if they're in there, whether they're hunting or target shooting, they've got to be keenly aware of that they are going to be held responsible if they injure someone that's in there at the time. So there's no liability to the town. Now, again, going back to the other issue, if the town passes an ordinance saying you can't be doing that in there, then there is some added liability to the town.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Because, again, it becomes an enforcement issue, and the town has to show that it is enforcing its ordinance. So the town would incur some liability in that case.
Is there, or could there possibly be a middle ground where if people are going to be shooting in the musquash, they would have to get a specific license to do that? that would maybe spell out what the cautions or precautions are they would have to take?
Yeah, I don't know if you could make them get a license for it, but one of the ideas that's been proposed is putting a designated area within the Musquash
Right, okay.
specifically for target shooting. Again, you would still have to enforce that, but
it would be more
at the same
manageable.
time, it perhaps could be more manageable, and you're still allowing it to take place in there. So. It's not like many things. It's not a black and white issue.
Right.
There's a lot of gray, and that's where the council is going to have to really sort through it and decide ultimately what they feel is best for the town. But it is like you said, an ongoing issue.
It always has been.
yeah.
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 Yeah. And it's, now what about posted land? Can it be posted the way private property can be posted? No hunting?
You can,
Type of
yeah.
thing?
You can. The town can,
Okay.
as I said, the town can choose to post and say
would be
we're not
one of
going to
their-
have hunting or target shooting
Yeah.
in there.
Okay.
It's within the town's
But still the
ability.
enforcement issue comes up.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I know that will probably come up again for more
I
discussion.
imagine it will.
Yeah, sure. Oh, goodness. Can I read my writing? Oh, yeah, you wanted to tell us about some upcoming events?
Well, we have the Old Home Day
Yeah,
Committee,
yeah.
which has been diligently at work planning our Old Home Day this year. I believe it's taking place, it's around August 16th, 17th, during that time. It's a little bit earlier this year because
that is earlier,
it's
yeah.
always done on, I think, the third Saturday.
The third Saturday.
Yeah. So, and apparently this year Hudson's moved theirs back, so we'll have a little competition going on with Hudson. But I always
okay.
think we have the better of the two. So,
They're very
I might be a little
different.
biased.
The two are
Yeah,
very
They
different.
are very
Yeah.
different. But it's going to be very exciting. You know, the parade will be bigger. It's an election year, so all
geez.
the politicians will be down and shaking hands and kissing babies.
Or vice versa.
Or vice versa, yeah. But so that's coming up in August. I believe the concerts on the Commons will be starting up again soon. So
By the way, if anybody's interested, we can teach you how to run a camera here at the Londonderry Access Center so that we can get those concerts taped and show them
that'd be great.
on the channel. So
Yeah.
we'll plug for the Londonderry Access Center.
Yeah. So, and you know, if anyone wants to check the community calendar, they can always go onto the website, and we keep the calendar updated pretty regularly. And again, I would just say if anyone ever has questions, concerns, come and see me in my office. Reach out to us at Town Hall. In fact, I'll tell you a quick little story before we wrap up here.
Okay.
You see our time's running out. I was actually sitting in my car the other day outside of TJ Maxx waiting for my wife to come out, and there was a woman who walked by and did a quick glance,
Double take. Yeah.
realized it was the town manager, and walked right over and said, I was going to come see you next week, but I'll just
Get you right here.
get you right here. Yeah. And so, and she actually asked a question about the Welcome to Londonderry sign on the south end by Chase Road, which has been damaged for a while. And
Oh, I hadn't noticed. Okay.
long story short is that we're just dealing with the insurance carrier to get coverage to replace the sign. And it should be replaced fairly soon.
Well, another plug on that, the person who designed that sign originally worked here
Really?
for the Londonderry Access
They
Center.
did a wonderful job.
Yep.
Those
And now
are beautiful signs.
she's a wonderful artist, and she's out in California working now.
Excellent.
So, yeah. So
Wonderful.
every time I drive by one of those signs, I think of her, which is cool.
Well, hopefully we're going to have one more sign, and it will go right at the entrance of Pettingill Road. So when people
Okay.
come right off the airport access road going towards the airport, they're going to see a big Welcome to Londonderry sign.
Fantastic.
Just to remind them that they're
It
going
is in
into Londonderry.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, it's a little hard to tell. And I believe there's also an open house during Old Home Day
yeah,
this year?
this hasn't been announced yet, but it'll be pretty soon. The police will be announcing it. It'll be an open house that the police department's putting on for their anniversary of the building. And
What
so
anniversary is it?
I believe it's either the 10th or the 15th anniversary.
Wow.
Dottie, I'll have to.
Time flies.
It does.
Yeah.
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 But so they'll be opening it up to the public, so everyone can go in. And I'll tell you, the building may be, a decade old. It looks brand new still.
Yeah.
They've done a phenomenal job of keeping that building pristine looking. And as a taxpayer, that's what you want to see.
Well, that's a great way to show how much they appreciate the fact that they got the facility.
Absolutely.
I do think that's wonderful. Yeah, we are just about, excuse me, just about out of time here. So what I wanted to let people know is that we're going to have you back once a month.
Okay.
And send your questions. My email is at the end of the program, and the contact information for Kevin is at the end of the program. And we want to make sure that if you have questions for us, get them to us ahead of the
Absolutely.
shoot, and they will definitely be answered, or an answer will be found if we don't know the
Absolutely.
answer right off the top of our heads.
And
So-
you know what, Dottie, this actually is a great forum that if people do have those questions, you know, they're more, they can send them to you, they can send them to me, but it's a great forum for us to be able to answer them on the air here. And
Yes.
I'd be happy to do that every month, that whatever the question is, the broken sign on
Yeah.
Chase Road,
Yeah.
or the odor exit, whatever the question is, send it to us and we'll be happy to answer it on air.
Okay, I think that
All right.
sounds great.
Good enough?
Anything else you need to add today?
That's all I've got for today.
Okay, so again, I repeat, we do have contact information at the end of the show so that you can get in touch with either one of us, get your questions answered here on the air. We are open to ideas for other departments that you might want to see, or other committees that you might want to hear from. So it's all government. It's all transparent, so ask your questions. We'll be happy to take care of them. And I thank you for being with us and hope that you will be here again next month. Thank you very much.